Welcome back to another episode of the Booth Review Podcast. This is Patrick Henry and Jack Roberts, and today we're joined by a very special guest, University of Miami legend, 12-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, and NBA champion, Rick Barry. Mr. Barry, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure, but please call me Rick, and I like your t-shirt. That's good.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, Rick, so you obviously went to the University of Miami, and what would your teammates do for fun in college, and what was the place to be on a Saturday night in 1965 Miami?
I don't know if I can remember that far back, actually. I'm so old. Well, they didn't do what I did. I can tell you that because they used to like to go out and go to a couple of establishments where maybe they can get a little bit of refreshment that might have had a few percentages of alcohol in it. That wasn't my thing. And then even the fraternity, I was a Kappa Sig. I was the official driver. And they're just, these girls were so lucky that I was such a good guy, brought up properly, not taking advantage of them when they were like 3 sheets to the wind and dropping them off at the dorms. But it's typical of college, even back in those days. I like to go out, people like to party, have a good time. But we didn't have any issue and stuff back then with drugs. So that was a good thing.
Did you guys ever go to the Grove? That's like kind of a hot spot at Miami.
Yeah, the Grove is always so popular, but nothing has gotten much hotter down there. I mean, they did a lot to really renovate it and bring it up in quality. But that wasn't like the big thing to do back then. There were some places, nearby, close to the campus that were probably the spots that the guys usually would go to. And most of the guys and people I had didn't have cars. I mean, I fortunately had a roommate who had a car. So I had 2 roommates. My roommate had a car, and my other roommate, he was in the other room with Wayne Beckner. That was Bob Green. Bob had a car, and my roommate, Mickey McGlady, who, God, it was so sad. He wound up getting killed over in Haiti. I mean, that's a whole new other story with him. I used to go down to the Eden Rock. You know the Eden Rock right down Miami Beach, where they used to have a show called Surfside 6, where the fountain below and the Eden Rock are. Across that little canal, there's all those big mansions there. Well, his father had one of those mansions. And this is really interesting stuff because I would go over there the weekends. His father was the front man for Meyer Lansky and ran the Nacional Hotel in Cuba for the mob. I mean, wow. Some of the people I'd see over there. I had a very interesting time when I was at the University of Miami, and actually dated a girl that actually was Miss Universe one time. So wow. A lot of very pretty women down there. But I was more focused on basketball. If you at nighttime, you'd find me over in the Armory. We used to practice on the Armory that was on campus over there by where the original athletic fields were in the locker room areas we had. We didn't have all the facilities that you have over there, and that's where we practiced. And that's where I would be. I'd be over there at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night with our Gene Seaball. I remember his name, who was our team manager, who was a heck of a player himself. But unfortunately, if you put him in front of maybe 15, 20 people, he wasn't quite the same player. He had a difficult time playing when there was a crowd. So, but he was a hell of a player, and we used to work out a lot. He was very helpful to me and spent many, many hours with me in the gym trying to help refine my game.
So you were... Yeah, go ahead. Patrick, sorry. Oh, so you were an all-around dominant player when it came to scoring, rebounding, passing the ball, and getting steals. Did you have a favorite stat to record?
Did I have a what?
Did you prefer getting an assist or getting a bucket?
Yes, that's a good question. Actually, I got much more enjoyment out of making a good pass to a teammate for a basket than I did scoring myself. The scoring is very easy. In fact, actually, I have a lot of things that I've done. In fact, I just talked to somebody just today about that. I was out at the World Golf Championship that's being played over here at Concession, which is only about 5 minutes from where I live in the wintertime down in Florida. And we were talking a little bit about that. And statistics have become such a big part of sports these days. And I've learned more about myself in the last 5 or 6 years than I ever knew, because my name kind of pops up here and all of a sudden, oh, so-and-so just did this and he joins so-and-so and so. There's my name. I had no idea I did those things. We didn't pay any attention to that stuff. I mean, seriously, we really didn't. But one thing I know that I did have, and I've known this for quite some time, and I think it's still the record, I think I still have the record for a small forward for assists in a game. I had 19 assists in a game in Chicago. And I always joke about that when I say, well, if I had 19 and I was playing in Chicago, I probably had more than 20 because I know they screwed me out of some of them.
Is that more than LeBron has ever had in a game?
Well, LeBron, I don't think LeBron's had 19 assists in a game.
Yeah, that's pretty.
His
Yeah,
career
he is really, he's a small forward. I mean, but he can, he plays point a bunch of the times or two. But if I'm picking a team to do something and you got to put him at a position, you put him at the 3. At least I would.
What do you think about like positionless basketball nowadays? And I feel like there aren't really set positions on the court.
I hate it. I hate it in a way because there really is no such, there shouldn't ever be anything as positionless basketball, but it's to the point now where you don't really have anybody actually playing the 4 and the 5. Guys don't even go in the post and utilize their skills down there. I'd much rather see a team do inside out stuff. But now all the 7-footers all want to shoot 3-point shots. And it's like the mid-range game is disappearing. And I mean, just look at the number of 3-point shots that are being taken in games now. It's just insane. And the game has changed dramatically in that regard. But I mean, I love getting to the basket. I mean, I got to be halfway decent 3-point shooter. I mean, 30% is passable because 30% is equivalent to about 44, 45% from twos, which is acceptable. But if I were playing today, I got to 33, I think, which is equivalent to 50. So, but if I were playing today, well, 2 things if I were playing today. Number one, I'd be a point guard. I would want the ball in my hands because the point guard controls the destiny of your team. And fortunately, I played on some teams where I was given the ball and had a chance to do a lot as a forward. I was really kind of the first small point forward. And so I really enjoyed doing that. And I could handle the ball, but my ball handling skills, ball handling skills would have to improve. I had a crossover dribble and I could dribble righty and lefty. And I had great speed. I was faster than most guards. And I used to bring the ball up the floor a lot. And so if I were playing today, I would come back. I would want to be a point guard. I really, truly would, because I know I could do more to help my team be successful. I know I could create opportunities because of my ability to drive and get by my defender and get into the seam of the defense and create opportunities for my teammates. That would be way more enjoyable for me than just, scoring 40 points a game.
Yeah. I feel like whoever the best player in the team is always bringing up the ball every time,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The ideal team for me, I would want to have my 1, my 2, and my 3 bring the ball up. Whoever got it, didn't matter. I would like to have all 3 of those players be interchangeable. So I didn't have to have one player who would have to dominate the ball, because then your team is in trouble. If he gets in trouble, you have to pray that whoever's subbing for him is going to be able to play at his level. But if you have 3 guys who all can play at that level, 3 guys who can handle it, bring it up the floor, create, shoot the ball, get to the basket, that's the ideal team as far as I'm concerned. And it just makes you impossible to defend.
So if you play today, do you think you would take a higher volume of threes, or do you think you would have shot a similar amount to when you were in the league?
Well, I probably would have taken, more threes, because to me, the greatest 3 to be taken is a transition. If you have 3 on 1, 3 on 2, you go to the basket. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you're a really great 3-point shooter, you could pull up, and take the 3, because you've got 2 guys on your team going to the basket with one guy trying to stop you. But you're pretty sure of getting 2 points if you go to the basket. Whereas if you shoot the 3, you might miss it. And the other guy's coming down, long rebound, you may not even get any points on the board. So if you can get an easy 2, you should do that. But to me, a 3-on-2 situation is the ideal situation to pull up and shoot the 3, even 3-on-3. Because on the move, you kind of know whether you're going to make it or not. You would have a great chance of shooting it, know what's there, to still go on the move, hit the floor and go right after it and try to get an offensive rebound. And it's very difficult to stop a player on the move from getting an offensive rebound. It's hard to screen a guy off who's moving. So those are the ideal situations. 3-on-2, especially 3-on-3, pull up and shoot the 3. That's what I would do if I'm coaching and telling my players, that's what I would want them to do. Pull up and shoot that 3-point shot.
So what I wanted to ask, I know you've gotten this all the time, but what's the story behind the free throw? Because we don't see it nowadays. It's pretty rare, but you shot such a high percentage. I think it was like in the 90s, like 90 something. What's the story?
88% for career.
88. Yeah, that's.
Well, actually, no, I was actually right just around 90, but I actually was a better free throw shooter than that, because I changed my technique My last 6 years when I played, I shot over 92%. My last 2 years, I shot over 94%. So don't say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because actually you should always be striving to get better. I was a better free throw shooter at the end of my career than I was at the beginning of my career. And nobody has shot, over 92% for their career. But if I had shot with that technique my whole career, especially when I was shooting over 10 a game early in my career, I think I could have put some numbers up that would have been very difficult for people to beat. I take great pride in it because it's the only part of the game, statistically, individually, where you can be selfish and help your team.
So no one could truly stop you, but who gave you the most trouble defensively throughout your career? And who was the toughest guy that you had to guard?
All of the ones I had to guard were tough. There is no, here's the thing that kills me when I listen to basketball now, and especially when I hear a former player talking about, well, he's a lockdown defender. Trust me on this, okay? Trust me. There is no such thing when it's going against a score. You cannot lock down a score. You can lock down a shooter, but you can't lock down a scorer. There's too many ways I can beat you. Yeah, and absolutely. So as far as, again, I felt nobody ever shut me down, but there was every team usually had one good defender. And so that's why it was easy for me mentally to always be ready to play, because I knew if I wasn't ready to play, I could really be made to look foolish, because I'm going to have the guy who's going to be relentless and totally committed to trying to go ahead and shut me down. So, I had to go against a lot of tough guys. Dick Van Arsdale was a really good defender. Back in the early days, you guys might not even remember him. Tom Hawkins for the Lakers was a really good defender. Dave DeBusschere was an outstanding defender. But the one guy that probably was more committed to trying to guard me, who was a very good defender, was a guy by the name of E.C. Coleman. And E.C. played for the Jazz back when they were in New Orleans. And then he actually wound up being a teammate one year. I said, well, this is good. I don't have to worry about it for one season. And but EC was so committed to me when we were playing one time. I remember I joked with our trainer, Dick D'Oliva. I said, hey, Dick, did you lock the locker room door? He says, no, why would I do that? I said, because I know EC wants to come in here and get my jock with me. So, and one time I was walking to the huddle at a timeout, and EC he's following me to the huddle. I turned to EC, I'm sorry, but you can't come to the huddle with me. But I'll tell you, but to a fault, because if you're my teammate, okay, say, Rob, you're my teammate. Either one of you guys, you're my teammate. You're 3 feet away from me open, and EC's guarding me, and I throw you the ball. You're going to have a wide open shot, which is not good basketball. I mean, you always have to try to stop the ball and stop the guy from getting an easy shot. You're getting a wide open shot because EC he was not leaving.
He just followed you around, even if someone else was open. He's just making sure you were locked down.
Yeah, trying to lock me down. Yeah, it was very interesting. But I always took it as a challenge to do that. And here's the thing that people don't understand about basketball. You say, I have to beat my man. No. 1 against 1. I don't have to beat you. All I have to do is get my shoulder even with you. That's a half a step. If I get my shoulder even with you, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was really interested about your career was your switch to the ABA pretty early on into your NBA career. What was your reasoning for that decision?
Well, I got vilified for that because everybody said, oh, money hungry, going after the money. I didn't go after the money. I mean, I just got done having, an amazing second season. I mean, I did something that very few players ever do. I mean, I don't know if there's many players that did it that come out in their first year in the pros, make first team all pro. I made first team all pro as a 21-year-old coming out of at the University of Miami. And, as people say, oh yeah, he was rookie of the year. I said, well, screw rookie of the year. I was first team all pro. What the hell? I mean, that's a lot better than being rookie of the year. And I made first team all pro my second year. And I led the league in scoring. I was the MVP of the All-Star game. And so, I mean, and we came within 2 pick and roll plays with my teammate, Nate Thurman against Will Chamberlain on that great 76ers team in that 67 final, that if those 2 plays go our way instead of their way, we wind up winning the championship in 6 games. We had a terrific team. And yet I didn't have a lot of fun. I mean, basketball has always been fun for me. And even though I was getting paid, it was my profession, it was fun. It used to be fun. I mean, that year, my coach, Bill Sharman, who's, a great player for the Celtics and, wound up being a great coach for, in the pros as well. He just wasn't fun to play for because he took the fun out of it. Hardly any days off. He started the morning shoot-arounds, which I think is the biggest waste of energy in the world. And now teams have full-scale workouts the morning of a game, which I don't understand. Why in the hell do you want your players to use energy at 11 o'clock in the morning when you got to play a game at night? I mean, yeah, get us out of bed. Let's have a meeting at the hotel. And it was all about, back then, we have sneaks and jeans and go to the arena, supposedly going to the arena to get used to the baskets. That was his thing. I knew what it was. It was to get you out of bed, okay? And then to talk about what you're going to do. Now it's a full-scale freaking workout, and I would absolutely hate it. So that just really bothered me, the morning shoot-around stuff. And so it really wasn't fun for me. And so I had an opportunity, even though we came so close to win the championship, to possibly go and play for my then father-in-law, who was my college coach, Bruce Hale at Miami, who I loved playing for, who taught me so much. It was such a help to help me develop to become an all-pro player as a rookie, because I basically spent 4 years at Miami being in the minor leagues, getting ready for pro basketball, because we played man-to-man defense. We played pro-style basketball. I mean, hell, in our senior year down there, guys, no three-point shot. We averaged 99 points a game. Wow, yeah. 99 points a game with no three-point shot. And if we had a three-point shot with my teammates, with Rick Jones, Junior G, Wayne Beckner, I mean, these guys, and John Dampier, but hey, when they crossed half court, they thought they were in range. I mean, I'm telling you, if we had the three-point shot, hell, we would have scored at least 110 points a game. Would have been insane what we would have been doing to teams, because we had guys that could really shoot the ball. So, it's a different world all back then. But I had a great time playing there. It was awesome, and so that's my answer.
What was it like facing off against guys like the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? And did that make you elevate your play? And did you feel like you showed up more to games like that as opposed to another game?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was always trying to play. I played against some of the greatest players ever. I mean, obviously Kareem, one of the great centers of all time, but he wasn't as much a factor. I wasn't worried as much about him having to go up against him as I would having to go up against Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, as far as shot blockers and stuff go, they were at a different level. I mean, as great as Kareem was, I mean, he wasn't known for being, that type of a player. He was such an incredible offensive player. The single greatest, most difficult shot I've ever seen, unstoppable shot, the skyhook. Unbelievable. Yeah. It's just amazing. And he was a great passer as well. But going against Bill Russell, I mean, that was always a great challenge to me, mainly because Bill was so cerebral the way he did things. He wasn't a guy that would smash balls into the stands and all. He just tried to tip them, keep them alive so they could start their fast break. And I got to know Bill and wound up working with him broadcasting years later. And I always remember that the one thing that I did, and I told him when we got to broadcasting, got to know him a little better, that I'll never forget it. We were playing a game. Back then, the Warriors played a lot of games in some of the other cities to test the markets. We actually played a game, down in Fresno, California, against the Celtics. And so Bill had gotten a rebound. Everybody started breaking. He threw an outlet pass that I saw coming. I intercepted it. And so now I'm going right back towards the basket, and there's Bill Russell waiting right under the basket. So I know that he always liked to get the offensive player to make a commitment. Then he'd go after you, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to go and do this. So I said, what the hell? I know that the last thing, because I played against Bill a number of times. Okay. So I know that he never in his life expected me to go up and dunk the ball, because I wasn't known as a great leaper and a dunker. And so I came and I went right at him. I didn't try to veer away and do something where he could time it and go. I just came right at him and just jumped right up in front of him, and I dunked the ball. And it's a rare thing that I've ever done, when I played. And the beauty of it was, and I told him what made me great, he never left the floor. I was able to trick him. And so that was so rewarding to me, to be able to do that and not have him block my shot. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. So I always remember, there's things that you play and all that you remember. You talk about the passing. I could tell you the single greatest pass I've ever made. And it was just crazy. I remember exactly where it was. Oakland Arena, Oakland Alameda Coliseum, that was there where the Warriors used to play. And it ran north-south, the court. So our bench was on the north side, on the western side. And the ball got knocked loose going towards the south side. and it got knocked loose and with some players, but the majority of the players were at half court or on the other side, on the south side going, and there's some paper there. We knocked it away. I ran after it. And as I ran to get the ball rolling towards half court on the far eastern side, I ran and I got the ball. I bent over and got it in like a football center. I took both hands and I hiked it through I saw my teammate, Phil Smith, running down in front of our bench on the other side, on the western side of the thing, going towards the basket. So I knew Phil was running to the basket. There wasn't anybody else. I bent down and I hiked the ball like a football center and just threw it through my legs, hoping to get it up there near the basket somewhere. It happened to go up perfectly on the left side of the basket. Phil caught it and made a two-hand dunk. I mean, I could probably try to do that on purpose a whole bunch of times and not get it right. You know, it's just one of those crazy things that happen. So I always remember that as my most amazing pass.
That's great.
Was Bill the best defender that you ever went against, do you think?
Well, he was the best center as far as blocking shots, although that I had to go against. But I could tell you the guy that I thought was even more difficult than him, and most of the centers will tell you he was one of the great defensive players, was my teammate, Nate Thurman. So in some practice, sometimes you can do it. The reason being is that most guys, when they guard you, they've got their hands up here, right? They got their hands up, you know, and you can kind of judge where their arms are and where their arms might be. Nate used to keep his arms hanging down. He had exceptionally long arms. So you really didn't get a great feel to be able to get a judge. Just how high do I have to get the ball to get it up over his hand when he's going to jump and go after it? And I always thought that he was more difficult to have to shoot over if you were going right at him than any other center that I had played against. I mean, and I played against a lot of great ones. I mean, they were all difficult, but I thought they were exceptionally difficult to play against.
So people today sometimes argue that the competition's harder than it's ever been in NBA history. What would your response to that be?
The athleticism of the players today is incredible, but they also have things available to them that we never had. We never lifted a weight. We didn't have a strength coach, an agility coach, a dietitian. And people say to me all the time, say, yeah, Rick, you know, you guys, you know, you couldn't play with these guys today. I said, are you really serious? I said, do you know how much better I would be if I played today? I'd be faster, stronger, quicker, more endurance, jump higher. I would be so much better a basketball player today than I was back in my days because of the sophistication of the training and the techniques that are available today. All of the stuff is done for your lifting and whatever, sports specific. It's so defined. It's so remarkable what they do. You know, I'd say we never lifted a weight. The first time I ever lifted a weight was when Nautilus came out in 1979, before my last year playing. And I messed around and did some of that, but nothing through the team. They have stuff now. Guys drink special stuff before they go to practice and work out. They got the stuff afterwards that they do. I mean, it's like a whole different world.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with the 3-point line. Everyone's shooting threes now. People don't really play defense in the regular season too. It just a lot more scoring in general.
Well, not really. No, there's really not a lot more scoring going on. And because we scored a lot of points back when I played. And we played fast, up-tempo basketball. We scored 120, 30 points on a regular basis, over 100. No, that's not it. And that's without the three-point shot. So, you know, people are that's a misconception. You know, overall, the average in some cases may be, but the three-point shot is a factor. We didn't have the three-point shot. We still scored 120, 30 points in a game. It's just a much faster, real up and down go. I mean, just fun basketball, just fun to play. And of course, the NBA went through a period and everything where they had to change the rules. I mean, it was ridiculous because the coaches were trying to save their jobs. And if they didn't have great athletes on their team, they tried to slow the ball down. And remember, hell, there were games, sometimes the games were in the 70s. You go, what the hell did they forgot to play the fourth quarter? What's going on here? You know?
So this current Warriors, oh yeah, go ahead.
So you've obviously been involved with the Warriors for many years, and you were present for their championships, obviously. Is Kevin Durant truly 7 feet tall? He's listed at 6'10", and everyone always says he's 7 feet. But
if I wasn't on the phone talking to you, I'm using my phone for the Zoom call, not my laptop. If I had the laptop, I would pull up on my phone a picture that I could show you, with Kevin and myself after the Warriors won that championship, when the one with him. They won one before he joined them, obviously, or a couple of them. So that first time he was there for the first championship when he was MVP, I have a picture of him with the MVP trophy standing next to him. He dwarfs me, right? And I'm with shoes on, I'm 6'8". So yeah, he's a lot closer to 7 feet than he is to anything else. He's what I call, there are players that I call anomalies. That means they're players that there's never really been anybody like that person before. Wes Unseld was an anomaly when he played. A guy his size to play the center position and do it. Wasn't super athletic. Magic Johnson was an anomaly. A guy his size to play the point guard position like that. Charles Barkley was an anomaly to play the power forward position like he played it. Bill Russell was that way because of the fact of the way he played defense. I mean, nobody had ever played it like that. Guys that play it differently. Shaq was an anomaly with the size and all his size. There wasn't a player that was his size that it didn't have the athleticism that he had. Olajuwon was another anomaly, a guy his size that was so incredibly athletic and mobile. It's crazy. Steph Curry, another one. Nobody's ever played the point guard position.
Would you call LeBron an anomaly?
Yes, LeBron definitely is an anomaly. There's never been a power forward with the size. I mean, this guy was a man-child when I saw him play in high school. I said, "Oh my God, this guy's going to be unbelievable." I mean, he's a kid in high school who looks like some Greek god. I mean, he had this incredible body and strength and athleticism. Yeah, so yeah, definitely, I would put him in the class of being an anomaly. And Kevin Durant goes into that. There's never been a player like him with his size to do the things that he does. Special people.
Definitely.
So this current Warriors team is missing Klay Thompson, which is a lot of what a lot of people forget about. And when he comes back next year, do you think that Steph Curry and the Warriors have another championship left in the tank?
Well, it depends on what happens with Wiseman.
He's great.
He's got a lot of potential. Depends how quickly he develops, and then who they wind up keeping. Oubre was a huge disappointment at the start of the season, but now he's playing at a whole different level. I mean, so he's like a different player. At the beginning of the season, because I hadn't seen much of him, going, "Oh my God, this is who they traded for." He's shooting 20-something% from. He was horrible. I mean, he really was. He was really bad. And but he's turned that around. And then the big question, of course, is going to be, will Klay be able to get back to the level he was? The big thing there is that he's not a guy that uses athleticism as far as for him to be able to score. And he's just one of the most amazing shooters. He may be I think he's a little quicker shooter even than Steph. He's just a remarkable shooter. So they need to get him back to the same level. I mean, he probably would have been MVP at the championship series had he not gotten hurt against Toronto. So that's a huge question mark. And then the biggest thing, I just talked to the Warriors flagship station, the Score, just yesterday morning, actually. Draymond is going downhill right now, man.
What is his deal? Yeah. What do you think's going on with him?
I mean, all of a sudden now he's shooting in the 20th percentile from threes. He was up in the 40s before. His shooting percentage has gone down the last 2 seasons from twos, from threes, from the free throw line. I mean, man, he's in a funk. I mean, he's got to get his game back because he's got to be able to play up at that level where he can go out there and play the defense he plays. And then also he should be able to get you. I said when Kevin Durant joined the team, he needed to change his game, which he did to his credit. You didn't need him to get 20 points ever in a game. Okay. You needed him to go out, get you some triple doubles, which he was able to do, get the assists, play the defense, get the rebounds. And you didn't have to worry about him scoring, but he still should be able to score 10 points a game on that basketball team. And right now he's struggling. And then of course he's always been an issue. He's been better. But just the other day, he went back to his old freaking ways, and going nuts and drawing the technical fouls. I mean, you can't do that, especially in close games. It's just so detrimental.
It lost the game for them.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it's so detrimental to your team's success. And he's been around long enough to certainly understand and realize that. And he just has to learn to control his emotions. But he has to get better. And get back to, even just close to what he was before. But I mean, his stats, look at him. I looked at him yesterday and I said, wow, man, he's got to step up.
So is that a guy they look to move maybe, or with his contract situation, try to
I
get
don't think
another
anybody,
guy?
to be honest with you, the way he's playing
No one
and his
wants him.
contract, nobody will touch him.
Well, if you throw in a draft pick, maybe someone will. I don't know.
I
Try to
don't know
figure
if
something
anybody.
out.
I don't know if anybody would touch him. I mean, come on. Here's what I do when I look at players that are going. How does a player mature in college, especially? Well, now they don't hardly ever stay in school very long if they're really good. But the thing I always used to look at players is he improving. You want somebody getting better.
Mhm.
LeBron is going the opposite. I mean, not LeBron, but Draymond's going the opposite way.
Yes.
That's not a good sign. And it's not just this season compared to last. Last season was bad to the season before. This is worse than last season. So that's not a good sign.
Yeah, he's hitting regression pretty hard.
Yeah, he's honestly been regressing offensively ever since Kevin got there, and I think he's averaging a career high in assists this year, but he just cannot put the ball in the basket for his life.
Well, nobody guards him.
Yeah.
All you do is you do that. You used to do that against, that's if I was guarding LeBron early in his career, that's what I would. I told everybody. I said when he first started playing, I said, how would you guard LeBron? I said, easy. I said I'd overplay him. I'd make him go out past the 3-point line. Then I'd back off 5 feet from him because he's not going to go by me and say, go ahead and shoot all day. You can shoot. If you beat me shooting from out there, I can live with that. I'm not going to let you dunk on me.
Yeah, I was watching the Knicks Warriors game. They're not even like guarding Draymond, and then he gets an open layup and he just botches the layup, And I'm just like, wow, this is like pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw the game against the Magic when that was one of the few times, because I think, Steve Kerr's done a great job and everything, but I don't know why he waited so long to get Kelly Oubre and Steph back in that game. They overcame 2 15-point deficits and had a 12 or 13-point lead with 8 minutes or something to go in the fourth quarter on the road. And they hit 2 threes and he left the team in there. I mean, it's nice to have confidence in your people, but man, I mean, when the team is struggling, your second team is struggling and your best players are on your bench. I mean, I think I'd rather lose with Steph in the game and Kelly, who was playing really well, than go with my subs. And the subs, by the time he got him in there, they had gotten the lead so far down. All the momentum was going their way, and they wound up squeezing it out. That was a tough loss.
Steph struggled from the floor that game, right? I think he was like 1 for 11 from 3.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah. He came into the game. One of the games, he came into the last 10 games. He was shooting over 50% from threes, and then he had a tough game where he was 5 for 20. And but he had a big one that they needed down the stretch. But that happens. That's what I even said to my youngest son Canyon, who I'd love to see get a chance to play in the NBA. He's a 40% shooter from there. The other day, he went 0 for 5 in the game, and he was shooting 48% from threes, and he went 0 for 5. And I just said to him, I said, son, Steph Curry just went 5 for 20. I think if you got 15 more shots, you probably could have made 5 out of 15. And so it happens to the best of them. Don't worry about it. He went out and he hit his first 4 or 5 3-pointers. It was 5 for 7 for the game. And so that's what happens. The best, even any great player, even Clay sometimes. Hey, remember the series a couple of years ago before they lost to Toronto, and when they still had Kevin before the season before he left, the first 2 series they swept, and Clay couldn't be found. Clay was having all kinds of problems, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He couldn't put it in the ocean, compared to what he normally does.
He's a streaky player.
They swept the teams. They swept both of their opponents. Why? Because the other 2 guys are on. So I told people, I said, when you play the Warriors with those 3 guys, you got to pray that 2 of them are having bad games, because they don't need all 3 to have a good game. And that was a perfect example. They swept the series with 2 of the 3 guys having good series. I said, can you imagine what they would have done to him if Clay was on? It would have been an embarrassment. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They say, when I played ball in all the years, decades and decades, it's always been make the team beat you from the perimeter. Well, with the 3-point shot and with the players the Warriors had, not only can they beat you from the perimeter, could they beat you, they could embarrass you from the perimeter. I mean, they are unguardable. You have 3 players who can shoot the 3, who can put it on the floor and finish, who can hit the mid-range shot, and are all great free throw shooters. How in the hell do you defend that?
Impossible.
Yeah, when Clay is on, he's on. I mean, there's been so many games where he just literally cannot miss. He takes a crazy 3-pointer, extremely contested, and it goes in.
Yeah, well, that was the amazing accomplishment, I think, that will go down, that nobody will ever accomplish, I think, again. is 37 points in one quarter with what, 12 dribbles?
Yeah.
No, 12 dribbles.
Yeah. A lot of those shots were like, wow.
I think it was 12. I'm not positive, but it wasn't very many dribbles.
I think that's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So
I just have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one more question. So who are your favorite players to watch today in the league, and who would you pay money to see?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just talked about a bunch of them. You know, Kevin Durant, I think, is great to watch. Certainly, Steph Curry is great to watch. Clay is great to watch. You know, the really great players are fun to watch. It's not fun to watch. I'm sorry, but as great as he is, and he's one of the most amazing offensive machines ever, but he's not fun to watch, is James Harden.
Not at all.
It's just too, I mean, just dominates the ball so much. I mean, geez, it's not fun for me to watch that. As great as he is, and he's great, they don't take away from him. He's amazing. And I think he's done a much better job now when he's been playing with Brooklyn to not, do the domination. And that's the only way it was going to work. And he would have to be willing to, and he's done a really nice job with that. So, but he's a pretty remarkable player. But you know, those are the kind of players that you love to see, watch. I mean, there's a number of them that are out there. It's the great ones. You know, I mean, Giannis is fun to watch, the way he plays and the things that he does. You know, he reminds me a lot because of his athleticism. Reminds me a little bit like he's not as smooth as Olajuwon was, but he's similar in that regard. You know, really nice player. And there's a lot of really fun players to watch the game. But it's about playing it as a team. And more teams seem to be adopting, you know, finally making 3, 4, 5, 6 passes, moving, cutting, and not all this one-on-one crap that you have to sit around and watch. I mean, I really dislike that a lot because that's not the way I was taught to play the game. And it also isn't a smart way to play. And you're probably not going to win a lot of championships doing that. And I'll give you one quick story on this. When I was writing for the Examiner, the first time they played Cleveland in the finals, San Francisco Examiner, doing a column. After the first game, I charted the game, watched the game. I wrote, the Cleveland Cavaliers will never beat the Golden State Warriors playing basketball the way they played in game number 1. I'm going to give you a statistic that is kind of mind-numbing. 59 possessions that the Cleveland Cavaliers had in the first game of that first series. 0 or 1 pass.
Wow. That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just not how you play basketball.
Yeah.
If you watch the Jazz this year.
Here's
the opposite of the Jazz.
My father, who was a semi-pro player and coach, taught me this when I was younger, and I always remember it. He said, son, the more decisions you force the defense to make, the more the likelihood that they'll make a mistake. And you can capitalize on that if you have players who know how to play the game properly. And that's why the Warriors are so effective, because they would pass, cut, move. That means the defense has to be talking, especially when you have such great shooters. And I'll finish with this one. In the series when Cleveland looked like they were going to get swept by the Warriors, right? I think it was the third time they played against them. They're back in Cleveland. Cleveland comes out and does a great job of not getting swept. Okay, so they really came out and were ready to meet the challenge, won the game. They come back to Golden State. They're up in the first quarter doing stuff. The Warriors make a comeback on them, get back there. It would have been easy for them, down 3-1, playing on the road, to mail it in. But they didn't. They stayed, played tough. Game was close in the third quarter. 2 plays turned the whole game around. And I don't remember exactly if it was Steph or Clay, started on the left side facing their basket and came off, and they had a bunch of his teammates there that he ran his man off of. So they basically staggered potential screens, because that's another thing I can get into. There's no such thing as setting a screen. You don't set anything. And I can't even stand it when I hear Jeff Van Gundy talking about, he didn't set a very good screen. Well, you're a coach. Players don't set screens, okay? They put themselves in a stationary position. It is the responsibility of the teammate to run his man into him, thereby making him a screener, okay? That's the reality of it. And nobody ever talks about it, which drives me nuts. And there's so many moving screens that go on in games. That's a whole nother story. So anyway, he comes running off, and it happened to be, I remember exactly the first time, it was J.R. Smith and LeBron James. And as Steph or Clay came off his teammate, ran his man off his teammate, the last guy, they didn't communicate. And because it was one of the great shooters, they both went out to him. The ball went inside to the guy, got a dunk. Happened twice. Now, that was never going to happen with Cleveland because they don't run an offense like that. So they get 2 dunks that help open up the lead. And then from there, it was all downhill for Cleveland. They were in big trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So thanks for coming on. Those are some great stories. And yeah, pretty much wrap it up.
Thank you very much, Rick. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yep. Okay, guys.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.